The boat is already waiting for you, and the sea this morning is the color of something you have been trying to remember for a very long time. You are standing at the edge of a small harbor, the wooden dock warm under your feet even at this early hour, the sun having been up long enough to work its way into every surface it can reach and fill it with a warmth that is entirely unhurried, entirely generous, the warmth of a tropical morning that has no intention of being anything other than exactly what it is. Behind you, the harbor town is beginning its day in the quiet and unhurried way of places that have been doing this for a very long time and have worked out exactly how much urgency the morning requires, which is none at all. Ahead of you, the water. And the boat. It is a wooden boat, not large, not small, exactly the right size for a journey like the one you are about to take, which is a slow journey. A journey measured not in miles, but in the quality of the light at each hour and the temperature of the water at each island, and the particular smell of the air as the morning becomes afternoon, and the afternoon becomes evening, and the evening becomes the warm, star-filled tropical night. The hull is painted white, a white that has been softened by years of sun and salt water into something warmer than white, something closer to the color of good things worn to their best selves by long and loving use. The wood of the deck is pale and smooth, the boards fitting together with the intimate precision of things that have expanded and contracted through many seasons and found their accommodation with each other. A rope is looped around a dock cleat, holding the boat in its slip, and the boat moves within this holding with the small, continuous movements of something alive, the water beneath it shifting, the boat rising and falling in a rhythm so gradual and so consistent that it is not quite motion and not quite stillness, but something between the two. Something that your body will learn and your body will love and your body will eventually breathe with. The way it breathes with everything that is slow enough and patient enough to offer itself as a rhythm. Take a breath. The air here at the harbor carries everything. Salt and wood and the faint green smell of the sea, and beneath that something floral, the flowers that grow at the harbor's edge, their blossoms open to the morning sun, their fragrance carried on. The warm air that moves off the water, the air of the tropics that is never cold, never sharp, always warm and soft and full of the particular generosity of air that has traveled over a great deal of warm water before arriving at your face. Let it fill you. Let it go. You are going to spend this day and this evening and this night moving through the most beautiful water in the world. Nothing will go wrong. Nothing will be difficult. The sea will be gentle, the islands will be close, the boat will carry you safely and slowly from one to the next and then further, out into the open water, through the channels between the islands where the color of the water changes from the pale turquoise of the shallows to the deep and luminous blue of the open sea and back again. Over and over, the whole journey a passage through color, through warmth. Through the slow and patient unfolding of a tropical day that is in absolutely no hurry to become anything other than what it is. Step aboard. The boat moves gently beneath your weight, a single small adjustment, and then you are on it and it is yours for the day and the night, and the harbor is still and warm behind you, and the sea is open and brilliant ahead, and the rope is untied now from the dock cleat and the engine begins, very quietly, a low and easy sound that vibrates through the deck into the soles of your feet, and the boat begins to move. The harbor mouth opens ahead of you, the two stone arms of the breakwater on either side, their surfaces dark with the line of high tide, their tops white in the morning sun, and then you are through, the breakwater behind you, and the sea is all around. The change is immediate and complete. Inside the harbor the world was contained, the water calm and enclosed, the sounds of a sheltered place, ropes and gulls and the small domestic sounds of boats at rest. Outside the harbor, everything is different in degree rather than in kind. The water still calm, but calm in the way of open water, calm with the movement beneath the calm. The long, slow swell of the sea that has been running from somewhere very far away and arrives here with the patience of something that has been traveling a long time and is in no hurry to stop. The boat rises on this swell and descends in a rhythm that begins immediately to feel familiar, not because you have been on this particular boat before, but because the body always recognizes the seas. Rhythm, the way it recognizes warmth and fragrance at a level below thought, in the oldest part of what the body knows. The engine runs quietly beneath you. The boat moves through the water at a pace that is almost walking pace, the unhurried pace of a vessel that is not trying to be anywhere quickly, that understands the journey is the point, and the point is to move through the tropical water at exactly the speed that allows you to see it, to see the color of it changing as the depth changes, to see the small things that live at the surface. The silver flash of a flying fish breaking the surface ahead and then gone, the cluster of seaweed drifting past. The single white feather floating with the absolute ease of something that has given itself to the water and trusts it completely. On either side of the boat, the sea. In front, the sea. Behind the sea and the harbor mouth already smaller. The town behind it just a suggestion of white buildings climbing a green hill. The detail of it resolving into the general idea of a harbor town in the morning light, and then further and smaller still, and then you stop looking back because ahead there is more to look at. There's always more to look at on the sea, and looking back at where you have come from is a habit of the land, a habit that the sea gently but persistently discourages. You sit at the stern of the boat, your hand on the warm rail, the engine vibration pleasant in your palm, and you look ahead. The sky is extraordinary. The tropical morning sky has a quality that no other sky has, a depth and a vividness that comes from the combination of the latitude and the water and the particular angle of a sun that rises early and rises high. And what that sky is doing this morning is simply being itself at full capacity, every quality of the tropical morning sky present simultaneously. The deep blue above, not the pale blue of higher latitudes, but the saturated, almost saturated, the blue that the word blue was coined for, the blue that blue is a photograph of. And below that, at the horizon, a band of lighter color, the marine layer that belongs to warm seas, a haze of warmth at the horizon that softens the line between sea and sky and makes both things seem to go on forever, which in their way they do. Clouds are building to the north, large and white, the great cumulus towers of the tropics that build through the morning and burn off in the afternoon. And they are lit from the east, the morning sun catching their eastern faces in full and leaving their western faces in shadow, so that each cloud is itself a small drama of light and dark, white above and pale gray below, and the sky between them is the blue of the bluest thing. You breathe. The salt air fills you. The engine hums. The boat moves through the brilliant water. The first island appears on the right side of the boat after 20 minutes of open water, and the sight of it does something to the chest that is purely and immediately physical, a kind of opening, a kind of recognition, as though the body has been waiting for exactly this shape on exactly this horizon, and is now satisfied in some deep and non-verbal way by its arrival. It is not a large island. It is perhaps what an island should be at first, introductory, the island that shows you what the word island means before the larger islands take over and complicate the meaning with their size. Low and green and surrounded by water that is, even from this distance, clearly a different color from the open sea you have been crossing. The water around the island, the pale, luminous turquoise that belongs specifically to shallow tropical water over white sand. A color so particular and so beautiful that it exists in very few other places, and is one of the things that the word paradise is reaching for when it uses the word. You steer the boat toward the island. Or the boat steers itself, it seems, drawn by the same recognition that pulled at your chest, the boat making its small adjustment of course toward the color change at the horizon, the way living things move toward warmth, the way the body moves toward good things when it is free to. As you approach, the island becomes more itself. The low green becomes the green of palms, dozens of them growing along the shoreline at the angle that palms always grow at on tropical islands, not quite upright, slightly leaning toward the water as though curious about it, or reaching toward the light, or simply growing the way palms grow when they are at home, and doing exactly what palms do, which is to be deeply, unmistakably themselves. The fronds move in the sea breeze, each one a long and graceful arm, articulated at its base, the individual leaflets catching and redirecting the light as they move so that the whole palm is always doing something with the light, always in motion, always producing that shimmer. That belongs to tropical vegetation, and that is one of the most restful sights in the world. The water changes color as the boat moves into the shallows. This is the moment you have been approaching, the color change, and it is as good as anything you have anticipated. The deep blue of the open sea gives way, over the course of perhaps 200 yards, to a green blue, then to a blue-green, then to the clearest, most purely transparent turquoise, a color that has both blue and green in it without being either, a color that belongs to the meeting of sand and sea and sunlight and shallow water and exists nowhere else on Earth with this exact quality, this exact combination of clarity and luminosity. Through this color, you can see the bottom. This is what the clear tropical water offers that no other water offers so completely. The bottom visible through the water with an astonishing clarity, the white sand of the sea floor visible 20 feet below, every ripple in it clear, every dark smudge of seagrass distinct and moving across it, the shadows of the boat and the shadows of the small waves at the surface, moving across the sand in shifting patterns of light and dark that are endlessly changing and endlessly beautiful. The most basic and most ancient light show, sunlight through water. Doing what sunlight through water has always done, which is to make the world beneath it look like a different world, a better world, a world that operates according to different and more beautiful rules. You cut the engine. The boat glides forward on its momentum, slowing, the water around it settling from the small wake the engine made back into its clear and patient stillness. And then the boat stops, drifting very gently, held in the shallow turquoise water of this first island's shore. The anchor dropped with a soft sound into the sand below, the chain running out behind it, and then the boat is still as the water, as still as the morning. As still as this island that has been here for a very long time and has developed, over that time, a deep and comprehensive stillness that it extends to everything within its proximity. You sit in the stillness of it. The sun is warm on your shoulders and the back of your neck. The water is brilliant on every side. The palms on shore rustle their fronds in the sea breeze, a sound like the beginning of rain that never becomes rain, just the continuous dry whisper of palm fronds moving against each other in the warm air. You breathe. There's a beach on the western side of the island, and you swim to it. The water receives you with the warmth that tropical shallow water always has, a warmth that is not the aggressive heat of a bath, but something gentler, more ambient, the warmth of water that has been heated by the sun for a very long time over a very large area, and holds that warmth evenly and continuously, so that entering it is less like entering water and more like entering a state of being surrounded by warmth from every direction simultaneously. The water the same temperature as the air above it, the whole environment of the shallows one continuous gentle warmth with different densities, air above and water below, both warm, both clear, both offering the same message of welcome. You swim slowly. This is the only way to swim in water this clear and this beautiful. Slowly, with your face in the water, looking down at the sandy bottom through the mask, watching the world beneath you as you move through it. The bottom is not far below 3 or 4 feet in the shallows near the beach, and the sand is white and fine and organized by the water into small, regular ripples, each ripple casting its thin shadow on the one behind it, the whole sandy floor a pattern of light and shadow in miniature, and across this pattern, the long shadows of your own arms as they reach and pull, and the shadow of your body, elongated in the low-angle underwater light. Moving across the sand with an ease and a grace that your body above the surface rarely achieves. A fish. Just one at first, a small one silver appearing from beneath a coral head that rises from the sand floor and disappearing around the other side of it with a speed that seems impossible for something so small. And then 2 more different striped in pale yellow and pale blue, moving in the loose companionship of fish that are not a school but are also not alone, aware of each other and adjusting their paths accordingly, navigating the small social geography of the reef in real time. The coral. It begins near the beach, small and scattered individual heads of brain coral sitting on the sand floor like deliberate arrangements. And then further from shore it becomes more continuous, more complex, the individual corals merging into a continuous structure, a landscape really, a landscape in miniature that has all the features of a large landscape, heights and valleys, open areas and dense ones, places where the growth is thick and varied and places where the sand opens up between structures. And everywhere in this landscape, the fish, dozens of them now, moving through the coral city with the casual confidence of creatures who live here and know every corridor and corner. You float above it. This is what snorkeling gives you. The perspective of an observer outside the world being observed, floating above the reef's entire story, able to see from one side of a coral head to the other and down between them to where the sand shows through in thin ribbons of white, able to watch the fish without being part of what they are doing, a witness to a world that is going about its own business regardless of your presence, a world that predates you entirely and will continue after you have gone, doing what it has always done. Eating and being eaten and growing and dying and regrowing, the reef's own slow and complex process of being itself. You watch for a long time, or what feels like a long time. Time in the water is different from time on land, more elastic, more generous. The body's attention so engaged by the visual feast of the reef and the physical pleasure of the warm water that the usual mechanisms by which the mind tracks time simply stop or run more slowly, and what might be 20 minutes feels like an afternoon, or what might be an hour feels like a moment. And the difference does not matter because there is nowhere you need to be and nothing you need to do, and the reef below you is endlessly, inexhaustibly there. When you surface and look toward the beach, the island is very close, the palm fronds moving in the sea breeze, the sand white and unmarked by any footprint except your own from the swim out. A private beach on a private island in the middle of the most beautiful water in the world, and the morning sun is warm on your face as you lift it to the air. You spend some time on the beach. This is not a decision exactly, more an arrival, the body moving toward the shade of the palms at the beach's edge, and then settling there, finding the particular angle of the root that makes the best seat, the particular arrangement of the body against the smooth gray root wood that distributes the weight most comfortably, the body making its own decisions about rest with the quiet competence it always brings to this. Finding what it needs without being told. The shade of the palms is a specific shade. Not the deep and slightly cool shade of broadleaf trees, but the dappled, intermittent shade of palms, the light coming through the fronds in moving patterns as the fronds move in the breeze, so that you are never fully in shadow but never fully in sun, existing in a comfortable middle state of alternating warmth and coolness, the sun touching your arms and then releasing them, and then touching them again in a rhythm that matches the rhythm of the palm fronds in the breeze, everything moving to the same slow measure. The sound of the sea is very close. The beach is small enough that you can hear the water on both sides, the gentle breaking of the small waves on the windward shore and the almost silence of the leeward water, the water that the island shields from the wind and that lies there in a calm so complete it seems to be listening for something. Both sounds reach you in the palm shade, the small regular sound of the waves and the silence of the calm water, together making a sound that is neither the one nor the other but the combination, the island's own ambient sound, the sound of a small piece of land surrounded by water in the tropics in the morning. A bird lands near you. A small bird, brown and quick, hopping across the sand with the precise, unhurried purpose that small birds bring to their investigations, looking for whatever small birds look for on tropical beaches, which seems to be everything, the bird examining every square foot of sand with a complete and serious attention that is somehow both very businesslike and deeply peaceful, the peace of total absorption in the present moment. Of a creature that has no other moment than this one, and therefore gives this one everything. You watch the bird. The bird eventually becomes aware of you. It stops, tilts its head, regards you with the single dark eye that it can bring to bear from this angle, and in that regard there is no fear, only assessment, the bird working out whether you're something it needs to respond to. It decides you are not. It hops once more toward you and then away and continues its investigation of the sand, and you continue your investigation of the morning, and both of you are at rest in your own way, the bird and the person, the sand and the shade and the warm air and the sound of the water all around. The sea breeze moves through. The palms above you. The fronds rustle and release. The light changes and returns. And you rest in the shade of the first island's palms, warm and still and complete in this moment, the way that moments in beautiful places are sometimes complete, not requiring anything to be added to them, not pointing toward anything else, simply being what they are, which is enough, which is more than enough, which is everything a moment needs to be. When you return to the boat, the tide has shifted slightly, and the boat has swung on its anchor so that it faces a different direction, and from the deck you can see further along the island's shoreline, further around its curve, and what you see there makes you want to continue, want to pull the anchor and move the boat around the island's western point to see what is on the other side, which is what you do. What is on the other side of the island is a small bay. Bay so sheltered and so still that the water in it is not the moving turquoise of the open shallows, but something more like glass. A surface so smooth that it reflects the palms above it in a reflection that is nearly perfect, nearly indistinguishable from the thing it reflects. The palms above and the palms below, the blue sky above and the blue sky below, the whole world doubled at the waterline and then trembling very slightly, very continuously, as the water breathes. You motor into the bay very slowly, the engine at its lowest setting, and the sound of it is very loud in this sheltered space, and then you cut it and the silence arrives, not abruptly but quickly, filling the bay from the water up, and the bay receives the silence as its natural state, as the state it is always in when boats are not in it, which is most of the time. The anchor goes down again. You sit on the bow of the boat and you look at the bay, and the bay offers you its reflection and its silence in the palms and the light and the water that is so clear here you can see all the way to the bottom, which is white sand, very white, whiter than the sand on the beach you were lying on an hour ago. The sand of the bay floor not mixed with anything, not dark with organic matter, just clean white calcium carbonate ground fine by the sea's long patient work. White is the idea of white. White as the color white would be if you asked it to be fully itself. You lower yourself into this water from the bow. It is warmer than the water at the reef, the bay having held the heat of the morning sun in its sheltered volume. The water here a degree or two warmer than the open sea, and the warmth of it surrounds you completely as you slip in, and you float on your back in the middle of the bay, arms out, face up, the sky directly above you, the blue of the deep tropical morning. And around you in every direction, the palms and the hills of the island, and the water and the perfect stillness of a sheltered bay in the middle of a morning that has nothing to do except be beautiful. You float. This is what you are doing. Simply floating. Your ears are in the water, and through the water you can hear the sounds of the underwater world of the bay, muffled and deep, the occasional click of something, the low movement of water against the hull of the boat a few yards away, your own heartbeat amplified and slowed by the water around it. Above your ears, the air and the sky and the sounds of the surface world, the wind in the palms, the very distant sound of a wave breaking somewhere around the island's far shore. Two worlds, and you in between them. Floating. Your body has given itself to the water completely, the buoyancy of the salt sea doing what it always does, holding you without effort, asking nothing, simply receiving your weight and returning it as lightness, as the feeling of being supported by something larger and more patient than anything human-made has ever managed to be. Your breath goes slowly in and slowly out. Your hands are open. The sun is warm on your face and chest. The bay is still. The second island is larger, and it comes into view in the early afternoon as you are motoring south through the channel between the first group of islands and the second. The channel deep and blue, and moving with a current you can feel as a gentle pressure against the hull, the sea doing what it always does in channels between islands. Pushing its enormous volumes of water from one side of the land to the other, with the patient insistence of something that has been doing this since the islands formed and will continue after the islands have eroded back into the sea. The second island rises from the water at its center, a hill covered in dense tropical vegetation, the green of it almost electric in the afternoon light, the particular sharp green of tropical leaves that have evolved to make the most of the light they receive, which is a great deal of light in which they make the most of by being large and flat and very, very green. From the water, the hill looks like a green cloud sitting on the sea, slightly unreal in its intensity of color, slightly more saturated than anything you might have imagined. Around the base of the hill, the island opens into flatter ground, and here the signs of habitation appear. A small cluster of buildings painted in the faded colors of the tropics, pale yellow and pale blue, and the white of lime-washed walls, a dock extending into the water, a few boats tied at the dock, a palm-lined road running away from the dock into the center of the small settlement. You bring the boat to the dock slowly, and a man there catches your line and ties it to the cleat with the ease of someone who has done this 10,000 times, and you thank him, and he nods, and you step ashore. The dock is old wood, dark with salt and sun, and it resonates under your feet with a hollowness that speaks of the water beneath it. The whole dock a thin layer of wood suspended over the sea, and walking on it is a different sensation from walking on land, the slight give and the slight sound and the smell of the water directly below. The settlement is small and unhurried in the way of island settlements that are far enough from the main shipping routes to have developed their own pace, their own relationship with time, which is not the relationship of urgency but of sufficiency, of understanding that the day contains what it contains and that rushing through the beginning of it only brings you sooner to the end. The buildings are close together, the streets between them narrow and shaded by the overhanging roofs and the trees that grow against the walls, frangipani and bougainvillea, and something you do not know the name of with large dark leaves and small white flowers. The smell of the settlement is the smell of the tropics inhabited, cooking smells, wood smoke, the sweet decay of fallen flowers, the salt air that reaches everywhere, even here in the interior of the settlement, the sea never quite absent from any moment of island life. You walk. There is no plan. The settlement is small enough that there is no need for a plan. The paths between the buildings all leading back to the waterfront eventually. The geography simple. The island resolving any navigation question you might have simply by running out of land. You walk in the shade of the overhanging buildings, past. Woman sitting on her step doing something with her hands, weaving or mending, her attention on her work and her work proceeding with the steady pace of something practiced and deeply known. Past a group of children who look at you with the frank curiosity of children who see visitors, but do not see them often enough to have become indifferent to them. Past a small building with its door open to the afternoon air, the sound of a radio coming from inside, music at low volume. At the edge of the settlement, where the built world gives way to the vegetated hillside, there is a mango tree, old and enormous, its canopy spread wide enough to shade a large area of ground below it. And in this shade, several people have arranged themselves in the casual geometry of people who have gathered in a shaded place on a hot afternoon, without any particular purpose other than the shade and the company. They are talking or not talking, some of them resting with their eyes closed, one older man smoking something fragrant, all of them contained in the mango shade with the ease of people who are exactly where they want to be. You find a place at the edge of this shade. You sit. The afternoon is warm and still, and the mango tree above you moves very slightly in a breeze you can barely feel. Its leaves dark and glossy, each one shaped like a deliberate decision, long and pointed and curved just slightly, catching and releasing the filtered afternoon light in a shimmer that is subtler than the palm shimmer but no less beautiful, more contained, more close, the shimmer of a heavy-leafed tree rather than the shimmer of a palm. A mango falls. It falls from somewhere above through the layers of leaves, making a sound at each layer as it passes, a small tapping, and then it hits the ground near your feet with a thump that sends a small cloud of dust rising and then settling. And there is the mango, ripe and fragrant, its skin the yellow-orange of a thing that has been ripening in the tropical sun for weeks, its smell arriving at you a moment after it lands. The sweet, thick tropical smell of ripe mango that is one of the most immediately transporting smells there is, a smell that contains within it an entire climate, an entire latitude, an entire way of being in the world. Someone laughs. The older man with the fragrant smoke says something, and someone else responds, and there is a brief and gentle laughter, and then the shade is quiet. Again, and the afternoon continues, and you sit in the mango shade on the second island and breathe the air that smells of the sea and the ripe mango and the frangipani from somewhere close, and the warmth is all around you, and the afternoon is very long. You leave the second island in the mid-afternoon, the sun having moved past its zenith and begun its long descent toward the western horizon, the light taking on that first suggestion of the richer tones that will eventually become the gold of the late afternoon, the white light of midday softening by degrees toward amber. The sea between the islands is a different sea from the morning sea. The morning sea was still and brilliant, the early sun on it producing a hard sparkle. The afternoon sea has a different quality, the sun lower and more oblique, its light falling at a longer angle across the water and producing not sparkle but shimmer, the whole surface of the sea shimmering with a warmth and depth that the morning's harder light did not have, a shimmer that moves in waves across the water as the breeze moves across it, the whole sea surface alive with this gentle rolling light. You motor through it slowly. The wake of the boat spreads behind you in a V, the two arms of white water fanning out and then dissolving, the sea swallowing the wake and returning to itself, flat and brilliant and patient as always, indifferent to the passage of the boat with the absolute indifference of the sea to all human passage, all human wake. On your right, an island passes, this one uninhabited, its shore steep and rocky on the windward side, the waves breaking white against the dark rock, and on the leeward side, visible as you pass its southern end, the inevitable small beach, the inevitable palms, the water, the inevitable turquoise of every leeward beach in the tropics. The formula repeating itself with a consistency that is not monotony but something better, the deep comfort of the repeated beautiful, the same thing being beautiful again. The same turquoise and the same palms and the same white sand offering themselves again, as though they understand that the beauty does not wear out, that it can be offered again and again without diminishment. You watch the uninhabited island pass, and then it is behind you and you are in open water again, a wider channel this time, the islands further from each other here, the sea between them more present, more itself, not the enclosed and particular sea of the inter-island channels, but the open sea that stretches in every direction to horizons that are the true horizons of the ocean. The horizons that mark not the boundary between land and water, but the boundary between the visible ocean and the invisible ocean, the rest of it. The horizon to the west is beginning to show the first color. Just the first color, not yet the colors of sunset, just the first warming of the sky at that edge, the blue there slightly warmer than the blue above, slightly moving toward the amber spectrum, the first announcement that the afternoon is aware of the time and is beginning the long, beautiful process of concluding itself. You look at it for a while. Then you look back at the course ahead, where the next island is a low shape on the horizon, still distant, still blue with distance, still more suggestion than island, and you point the boat toward it and you motor on through the brilliant, moving, warm afternoon sea. The third island has a different character from the first two. It is older failing. The vegetation on it is taller and denser, the trees at the interior larger and more established, their canopies meeting above the slopes in a continuous green that suggests a long time of growth without interruption. A forest that has been growing here for generations, for centuries perhaps, the trees that were saplings when this island was first settled now enormous and foundational, their root systems holding the hillside soil in place, their canopies shading the forest floor below. The whole forest a community of things that have been in relationship for long enough to have arranged themselves into the particular complex equilibrium of an old tropical forest. You anchor in the lee of the island as the afternoon deepens further toward evening, and you sit on the deck and you watch the third island present itself to you in the golden light that has now arrived. The light that was announced at the western horizon an hour ago and is now fully here, transforming everything it touches. The transformation the golden light works on a tropical island is something that should not be taken for granted, though it happens every afternoon and has happened every afternoon since this island first appeared above the waterline of the ancient sea. The green of the vegetation turns gold at its edges where the light catches the upper surfaces of the leaves, and the bark of the trees glows, and the sand of the beach below the trees turns from white to a warm cream, and the water in the shallows turns from turquoise to a green gold that has no name but is perfectly itself. A color that exists only at this hour and in this latitude, a color that seems less like a color than like the light itself made visible. A heron stands at the water's edge. It is very still. Herons are always still in a way that seems to exceed what any animal could maintain. The stillness of something that has turned patience into a physical practice, that has made waiting into a form of attention, so complete it becomes indistinguishable from meditation. The heron stands in the golden shallows with one foot slightly raised, its long neck curved back to its shoulders, its eye fixed on a point in the water below it, and it is so still that the water around its feet barely registers it, the small ripples of the shallows passing through without seeming to touch the bird at all. You watch the heron. The heron watches the water. The afternoon deepens around both of you. The sun moves lower with the gradual, unhurried certainty that belongs to the sun in the tropics, where the angle of descent is steeper than in other latitudes, and the transition from afternoon to evening is therefore quicker, the colors changing faster, the light going from gold to amber to the first warm copper that signals the approach of the actual sunset, the hour when the sky commits itself fully to what it has been building toward all afternoon. The heron strikes. One movement, explosive and precise and over in a fraction of a second, the head driving down into the water and then lifting, and in the long beak a small silver fish, and then the fish is gone, swallowed, and the heron returns to its stillness as though nothing has happened, as though the strike was just a brief parenthetical in the long sentence of its watching, already closed, already absorbed back into the patience on either side of it. You take a long breath. The air at this hour has changed quality, the afternoon's dry heat giving way to something slightly cooler and more layered. The land breeze beginning to come off the island as the land cools faster than the sea. The warm air of the day rising from the island's interior and being replaced by the cooler sea air drawn in at the shore. And this movement of air carries with it the smells of the island's interior. The forest smells that are different from the beach smells, darker and richer, the smell of leaf litter and dark soil, and the particular tropical sweetness of flowering trees deep in the forest. A smell that reaches you on the evening land breeze as the island breathes out the scent of itself into the cooling air. You breathe it in. The island, the sea, the evening coming. The sun reaches the western horizon as you are anchored off the third island, and what happens then happens slowly and with complete commitment, the way everything in this day has happened, without hurry, with full attention to every step of the process. The sky giving itself to the sunset the way a good day gives itself to its conclusion, not rushing toward it, not holding back from it, just moving through it at the pace that is natural, the pace of the sun's descent, the pace of the light changing. The pace of a tropical evening that understands its own beauty and does not feel the need to emphasize it with drama. The colors begin in the west as they always begin, as they have always begun since there have been sunsets to begin. The amber deepening to orange, the orange deepening to the warm copper red that is the penultimate color. And then above this, the sky in gradations of rose and violet and the deepening blue above. The whole western sky composed arrangement of color that extends from horizon to zenith and changes by the minute. Each minute's configuration different from the one before, each one unrepeatable. Each one the exact and perfect version of this particular sunset at this particular moment, and you are watching it, you are there for it. You are sitting on the deck of the boat as the anchor holds in the golden shallows off the third island, and the tropical evening does what it does, which is to be magnificent without effort. The sea has turned. The afternoon shimmer is gone and in its place something else, something that belongs only to sunset over tropical water. The colors of the sky reflected in the surface of the sea, so that the sea is no longer blue but a moving, shimmering version of the sky, amber and rose and gold. The small waves catching each color and turning it as they move, so that the whole sea surface is alive with reflected color. The sky's colors brought down to the waterline, democratized, made horizontal. The sunset happening not only above you, but all around you, in every direction, the boat. Floating in the middle of a world that is entirely, continuously, breathtakingly colored. You do not move. There is nothing to do but receive this. And so you receive it. The sun reaches the exact line of the horizon, and there is a moment, a few seconds, when it is half above and half below, the great disk of it cut by the sea's edge. And in these few seconds the color is most intense, the sky most committed to its amber and rose, the sea most perfectly its mirror. And then the sun descends further and further, and then it is gone, the disk below the horizon, and what remains is the afterglow. The afterglow. This is the part that is less celebrated than the sunset itself, but that is, in its way, more beautiful, more mysterious. The sky after the sun has gone still holding the light it gave, still warm and colored, but the colors softening now. The amber pulling back toward rose, and the rose pulling back toward lavender, and the lavender ascending toward the deepening blue that is the approach of the true evening. The colors doing their work of becoming night in the most gradual and most beautiful way possible. The heron still at the water's edge becomes a silhouette. The palms on the third island become silhouettes. The island itself becomes a dark shape against the glowing sky, no longer a green hill but a black shape, present and solid against the rose lavender of the afterglow, the most basic of all images, land and sky, dark and light, the island and the evening. The first star appears. You see it when you look directly overhead, where the sky has already moved past the sunset colors into the early evening blue, and the star is there, singular and bright, the first light that is not the light of the sun. The announcement that the night is real, is coming, is already here at the top of the sky, even as the sun's colors still hold at the horizon. You look at it. One star, the whole sky around it deepening. The boat moving gently on the water, the anchor chains settling into the sand below with a patience equal to the seas. And the evening coming as evenings come, with complete certainty and no urgency at all, the dark gathering itself from the east and moving west across the sky, filling in the blue with something deeper and more final, and the stars appearing one by one in the space the dark makes for them, each one a small and perfect light, ancient and unchanged, burning their billion-year fires for the benefit of no one in particular and everyone who looks up. You eat on the deck as the night comes in. The food is simple, the kind of food that is best eaten on a boat in the evening after a long day on the water. Bread and fruit and something cold to drink, and the eating of it is part of the day's completeness. The body recognizing and receiving what it has been working toward through all the swimming and the walking and the sitting and the watching. The body's need for fuel met simply and well. The food tasting as food always tastes when you have spent the day in the open air and the water, which is to say, completely, perfectly itself. The breadfruit is soft and warm. The mango from your bag carries with it the smell of the shade under the mango tree on the second island, the smell of the afternoon there, and eating it is a small, sweet revisiting of that hour, the flavor a souvenir, a piece of the afternoon preserved in sweetness. Above you, the night sky is assembling itself. This is the right word, assembling. The stars appearing not randomly, but in a sequence that has its own logic, the brightest first and then the less bright and then the dimmer still, the sky's own hierarchy revealing itself layer by layer as the dark deepens, until the full night sky is there, complete, the stars in their millions across the tropical sky that is the richest sky for stars that exists outside the truly dark places. The sky of a place where there is no city for 100 miles and the atmosphere is clean, and the water provides no glare, and the stars can be what they actually are, which is enormous in number and various in brightness and ancient in their positions, and the most beautiful ceiling imaginable. You lie back on the deck after eating. The wood of the deck is still warm from the day's sun, the heat stored in the timber releasing slowly into the night air, and this warmth coming up through your back as you lie looking at the sky is one of the most fundamentally comfortable sensations available. Warm wood against the back, cool stars overhead, the gentle movement of the boat beneath you, the boat moving in the long, slow rhythm of the anchored sea, rising and falling with the swell. A rhythm so gradual and so continuous and so entirely predictable that it has ceased to be a rhythm and become simply the quality of the world here, the way the world moves on water, the way the world breathes when you are at. The stars above you are extraordinary. You have been in places with dark skies before, or you know what it is to look at a sky full of stars, but the tropical sky at night has its own specific character. The particular stars visible in this latitude different from the stars of the north. The Southern Cross visible now, low on the southern horizon, its 4 stars making their simple and definitive cross shape. And above it other configurations that do not have the same cultural weight as the constellations of the northern hemisphere, but that are no less real, no less ancient, no less present. The Milky Way. It is there, crossing the sky from horizon to horizon, the band of the galaxy visible as a river of soft light, denser in some places and less dense in others, but continuous, a fabric of combined starlight that seems both very close and impossibly distant, both intimate and cosmic, both the most beautiful thing you have ever seen and the most ordinary thing in the universe. A billion stars arranged by gravity into the shape of the galaxy, in which you and this boat and this sea and these islands are one infinitesimal part. You look at it for a long time. Not with thought, not with the analyzing, cataloging, comparing mind of waking consciousness, but with something simpler and more direct, the pure receiving attention that opens up in the presence of extraordinary beauty, the attention that needs to do nothing with what it receives except perceive it, that is satisfied simply by the looking, simply by the being here under this sky, on this boat, on this sea, in this warm tropical night. The boat moves beneath you. Your breath moves through you. The stars move overhead in their ancient and imperceptible rotation. And you are held between the warm wood below and the vast sky above, held in the middle of the night and the sea and the beauty of this tropical island night. And the holding is complete, and the beauty is complete, and you are complete, resting on the deck of a wooden boat anchored in the shallows of the third island as the night deepens around you and the stars multiply and the sea breathes its long, slow, warm breath and everything is exactly as it is, which is to say, extraordinary and warm and still and yours. Later, much later, when the night is fully itself, and the last of the afterglow has long since given up its last warmth to the dark, you move below deck. The cabin is small and warm, the warm of a space that has been closed and sun-warmed all day and holds that warmth into the night, the walls of it pale wood, the berth along one side padded and covered in fabric the color of the sea, and through the small porthole above the berth, the circle of the night sky, a frame containing a small piece of the galaxy, a handful of stars cut from the hole and offered through this window as a private constellation, yours alone in this position, in this berth, on this night. You lie down. The berth is narrow and long and perfectly sized, and the mattress beneath you has the slight firmness of a thing that knows its purpose, and the fabric above you is clean and cool in the way that fabric in warm climates is always slightly cooler than the air, the cotton releasing its small stored coolness as you settle into it, and then warming to your warmth, and then finding the equilibrium, the perfect temperature of a person at rest in a warm climate in a clean bed on a boat on the sea at night. Through the porthole, the stars. Through the hull, the sea. The sea sound is different from inside the boat, filtered through the wood, muffled slightly, but still present, still the primary sound of the world outside, the water moving against the hull with its continuous small sound, the anchor chain occasionally making its quiet adjustment against the seafloor below, and over all of this, the open water sounds that reach even into the sheltered bay, the very distant sound of a wave somewhere on the island's windward shore, a sound so distant it is more felt than heard. A low pulse in the air. You close your eyes. The porthole stars are behind your eyelids now, the impression of them still there in the visual field of the closed eye, the way bright things leave their impression when you look away, a ghost constellation briefly present, and then fading into the warm dark of simply closed eyes. And then just the dark. The warm, complete boat-rocking, sea-breathing, star-filled dark of a tropical night on the water. The best dark there is, the dark that offers nothing to resist and everything to receive. The dark that is warm rather than cold, that smells of salt in the night air and the warm wood of the boat, that sounds of water in the very distant shore, that feels like the most natural thing in the world, lying here on this boat at anchor in the shallows of an island in a sea of islands, the whole day. Behind you and the whole night ahead. Your breath slows. The boat sways. The stars turn overhead through the porthole in their ancient rotation. And you are here, completely and restfully here, held by the sea and the boat and the warm dark and the stars, resting at the end of the longest and most beautiful day, at the beginning of the warmest and most generous night. In the out, the sea breathes with you. In the out, the boat sways. Your hands lie open at your sides. Your face is still. The dark is warm. And the stars through the porthole are the same stars that were above you on the deck an hour ago, the same Milky Way, the same Southern Cross, the same ancient and patient lights that have been here for every night of every voyage anyone has ever made across the sea. Lights that lit the way for every canoe and every sailing ship and every wooden boat that has ever moved through this water. Lights that will be here long after the last boat has gone and the water has returned to its own company. They are here tonight for you, and you are resting beneath them. The sea holds the boat. The boat holds you. The night holds everything. And your breath, slow and long and warm and full of salt air, and the smell of the tropical sea comes. And goes, and comes, and goes, the world turning very slowly under the stars. The boat rocking in the warm dark. And you here resting at the center of it all, held and safe and fully given to the night. The crossing happens on an exhale. Not the exhale you are waiting for, not a dramatic final breath before the dark, just an ordinary exhale, one of the thousands you have taken today, on the deck in the morning sun and in the water at the first island's reef and in the mango shade on the second island, and lying on the deck under the stars. This exhale is no different from any of those, and yet it is the last one on this side of the threshold, the last breath of a person who is awake, and when the inhale follows it, the person who takes that breath is already somewhere else, already across, already in the other country that has no coastline and no harbor and no dock, but that you find your way to every night of your life with the reliability of something that knows its home. You are there. The boat knows it before you do. Or perhaps the boat does not know anything, being wood and hardware and a length of anchor chain lying on the sand floor 12 feet below. But the boat responds to your crossing the way all of it responds to everything tonight with a slight shift, a small adjustment, the gentle rocking of its hull in the warm water becoming, in the first moments of your sleep, exactly the right rhythm. The rhythm your body has been learning all day, the rhythm of the sea, and now in sleep that rhythm becomes internal. Becomes the pace of the dream itself, becomes the slow and rocking meter of everything that is about to happen in the long, warm, star-filled night. The porthole above the berth still shows its circle of sky. The stars in it are turning infinitesimally as they have been turning all night, as they have been turning since before there was anyone to notice the turning. And they will continue after tonight as they continued before it. The great wheel of the night sky doing its ancient work regardless of whether anyone is watching, regardless of whether anyone is asleep in a wooden boat below them. And this indifference, this complete and total indifference of the stars to whether they are observed or not, is one of the most comforting facts available to a sleeping person. The fact that the world does not require your attention to continue, that everything will go on as it should while you rest, that the stars will keep their positions and the sea will keep its rhythm, and the islands will hold their ground in the warm, dark water, and you can simply, fully, completely let go. You let go. The first thing the sleeping mind makes of the day is not an image, but a sensation. The sensation of water. Not water as a concept, not the idea of the sea, but water as the body experienced it today, as a physical fact, warm and surrounding and buoyant, the shallow tropical water of the first island's bay receiving your weight and returning it as lightness. The particular buoyancy of salt water in the tropics that is so complete and so effortless that floating in it requires nothing, no swimming, no treading, just the willingness to be held, and the water holds, and the holding is total. This is what the sleeping body offers you first from the day's great wealth of sensation, the feeling of being held by warm water. It comes not as a dream image, but as a physical memory, the body replaying it through whatever channels the body uses to replay its best experiences. The skin reporting the warmth, the muscles reporting the release of their usual work, the whole physical system returning briefly and gratefully to the state it was in this morning in the bay, suspended, supported, weightless in the warm and brilliant water. You breathe in. The sleep breathes with you. And the sensation deepens, the warm water rising from a physical memory to something more present, more dimensional. The sleeping mind taking what the body offers and building it into the beginning of the night's first dream. The water becoming more real as the sleep deepens, more surrounding, more warm, the particular turquoise of the bay's floor visible even through closed eyes in the dream's own light. That pale and luminous underwater color that has no equivalent in the waking world except itself. You are in the water, in the dream. The same water, the same warmth, the same transparency through which the white sand floor is visible below, and across that floor the same dancing patterns of light from the surface above, the same shifting reticulation of sun through shallow water that was moving across the sand all morning, that you watched from above while you floated on your back in the bay. In the dream you are not watching from above. You are in it, part of it, moving through the warm and brilliantly lit water of the first island's bay with the ease that belongs to the dreaming body, which moves through water the way waking bodies move through air, without effort, without the mechanics of swimming, simply moving, simply being in the water. Parting and reforming around you as you pass. The fish are here. The striped ones pale yellow and pale blue. The ones that were navigating the reef this morning in their loose and unhurried companionship. In the dream they are larger than they were in waking, or perhaps they are the same size and the space around them is different. The dream adjusting scale in the way dreams adjust scale when they want to show you something more completely, and what the dream wants to show you is this. The fish in the light in the turquoise water, in the morning that is also the night, in the sleep that is also the bay. The fish going about their business with the same complete indifference to your presence that fish always have, that all wild things have, the indifference of creatures that have never been taught to organize their lives around the human gaze. They move around you. You move among them. The water is warm. The light from the dream's surface above filters down in long, shifting shafts, and in those shafts the fish are lit differently from the fish in the shadow between the shafts. The lit ones briefly silver, The shadowed ones deeper in their color, and the shafts move, and the fish move through them, and you move through them, and the whole underwater world of the dream is continuously, quietly, impossibly beautiful. The boat rocks, not dramatically. The way it has been rocking all evening, the long, slow swell of the anchored sea finding the hull and moving it, and the hull moving with the swell and then returning, and then the next swell, the rhythm so consistent and so gentle that the sleeping body has incorporated it completely, has stopped registering it as motion and begun registering it simply as the quality of the world here. The way the world feels when you are on a boat at anchor in a sheltered bay in the tropics in the deep of the night. Warm, moving, held. The anchor chain below makes its small sound as the boat shifts slightly on its rhythm, a faint metallic settling, a sound so small it barely registers even in the silence of the cabin, and the silence of the cabin absorbs it without difficulty, the wooden walls doing what wood does, taking in the small sounds and softening them, the grain of the old timber holding in it the memory of every sound it has ever absorbed every night at anchor, every conversation on deck, every rainfall and every calm. The wood itself a kind of slow and patient recorder of the life of this boat. You breathe in the cabin's warmth. Warmth that the wood has stored from the day's sun and is releasing through the night in exactly the right amount. The cabin temperature perfect, warmer than the air outside where the sea breeze has begun its cooling work, cooler than the afternoon heat that accumulated in it through the hours when the sun was directly overhead. The cabin existing in its own temperature equilibrium, self-regulating, the wood managing the warmth the way the sleeping body manages its own temperature, without instruction, without effort. Simply doing what it does. Through the porthole, the stars have moved. Just barely, just the degree of movement that accumulates over the time you have been sleeping, but measurably, the circle of sky visible through the porthole's glass containing a slightly different arrangement of stars from the one it contained when your eyes last registered it. The sky having turned its fraction of a degree in the time between your crossing and now, the universe continuing its business while you rest. And the Southern Cross, low on the southern horizon when you last saw it with open eyes, has shifted, its 4 stars still making their patient cross shape but positioned differently against the dark, and the Milky Way still crossing the sky from east to west but at a different angle, the whole great wheel of the night sky having rotated by the exact amount that corresponds to the hours of your sleep, the sky a clock that no one consults but that keeps perfect time regardless. Marking the passage of the night in the only units that matter out here, which are not hours but degrees of arc, fractions of the full rotation, the night measuring itself in the movement of the stars. The sea outside the hull is very quiet. In the sheltered bay where the boat is anchored, the water has none of the open sea swell, only the gentlest movement, the bay's water rising and falling in sympathy with the larger sea beyond the island's point without being moved by it directly. A sympathy that expresses itself as the boat's slow rocking, as the anchor chain's occasional small sound, as the faint sound of water against the hull that is less sound than vibration, felt through the wood more than heard. A low and continuous hum that is the sea's own voice at its most intimate, the sound the sea makes when it is in close contact with something it is gently and continuously holding. You are being gently and continuously held. The dream of the water gives way as dreams give way without transition, without the logic of cause and effect, simply one thing becoming another with the fluid grace of the sleeping mind that has no interest in explaining itself, only in presenting, only in offering what it has gathered from the day and transformed in the dark into something richer and more purely itself than the day's version. You are on the boat, but the boat in the dream is different from the boat your body is sleeping in. It is the boat as the day made it, the boat in full sunlight, the deck warm beneath bare feet, the rail warm in the hand, the engine a low vibration through the soul, and the sea ahead is the afternoon sea, the shimmering amber gold of the late afternoon tropical water, and the islands are there, on every horizon low green shapes against a sky that is doing everything the sky did this afternoon. The amber and the rose and the deepening blue and the cloud towers to the north lit from the side. You are at the helm. The wheel is warm in your hands, the same warmth the rail had, the sun warmth of every surface on the boat this afternoon, and the boat moves under your guidance through the brilliant shimmering water, and the feeling of it is the feeling of the afternoon distilled and perfected, all the good of it present and none of the small friction of any actual afternoon, just the warmth and the motion and the color and the sea spreading ahead in every direction to its own horizon. The dream not constrained by the actual boundaries of the channel between the islands, but expanded in the way dreams expand things when they want to show you the essential nature of something, which is in this case the essential nature of moving through the tropical sea on a warm afternoon, which is freedom and warmth and the smell of salt and the light on the water and the boat beneath you and the islands in the distance and the sky above doing everything the sky does. The boat moves. You move. The sea receives you. And the dream holds all of it with the same patient generosity that the day held it, giving you back the afternoon in its sleep version, which is more purely itself, more essentially what it was. The detail of it sharpened by the sleeping mind's particular ability to take the most vivid and most felt things from the day and render them exactly as they were. At their best moment, the color of the water. That is what the dream is most interested in, what it returns to again and again as the dream boat moves through the dream sea, the color of the water, the turquoise of the shallows, the deep blue of the channel, the amber gold of the afternoon on the open sea, the rose silver of the water at sunset. Each color receiving its full attention in the dream, the sleeping mind examining them with the unhurried thoroughness of something that has all night and nothing else to do except look at the colors of the tropical sea in every light. You look at them, turquoise, blue, gold, rose, silver, each one complete, each one exact, each one the color that belongs to the water in that light at that hour on that day that is also this night. The day preserved in the dream the way things are preserved in the body, not as a record but as an aliveness, as something that is still happening somewhere in the body's memory. Still vivid, still warm, still smelling of salt and the boat and the islands and the long, generous tropical afternoon. The second island appears in the dream. The settlement, the dock, the pale-colored buildings, the narrow streets in the shade of the overhanging roofs, the woman on her step with her hands at their work, the children with their frank and curious eyes, the smell of the cooking and the wood smoke and the frangipani. And then the mango tree, enormous and old, its canopy spread wide over the people resting in its shade, the older man with his fragrant smoke, the afternoon arranged beneath the mango tree with the ease of people who understand that the afternoon is for this, for shade and for being together in the shade, for the old man's fragrant smoke and the occasional laughter, and the mango falling with its small announcement of ripeness onto the sun-warmed ground. The mango in the dream is in your hand. You are holding it, the weight of it in your palm, the skin of it warm and giving, the smell of it concentrated and sweet, the smell of every mango in every tropical afternoon that has ever existed, the smell that is both very specific to this island and to this day, and also the general smell of a whole latitude, a whole way of being in the world, the tropics distilled into the smell of a ripe mango held in a warm hand in the shade of a very old tree. You do not eat it in the dream. You simply hold it. And the smell of it fills the dream the way. The lavender filled another kind of dream in another kind of night, completely and without boundary, the smell and the warmth of the mango becoming the general quality of the dream itself, its ambient temperature, its particular sweetness. The whole dream smelling now of ripe mango and salt air and the wood smoke from the settlement and the frangipani, and beneath all of these the sea, always present even here in the settlement's interior. The sea that surrounds and underlies everything on an island, that you cannot get far from even when you cannot see it, that you breathe continuously whether you are on deck or in the mango shade or asleep in the wooden berth below decks on a quiet night in an anchored bay. The sea breathes in the dream. You breathe with it. In the out, in the out. The mango in your hand. The shade overhead. The old man's fragrant smoke drifting through the dream air in a slow blue spiral that rises from the shade of the mango tree and is caught by the sea breeze and carried, thinning and dispersing, out toward the dock and the boat and the open water, joining the general warm air of the tropical afternoon, becoming part of it. The heron comes to the dream. It comes from the third island or from the memory of the third island, that older island with its denser forest and its ancient trees and its particular quality of age and patience. The island that felt as though it had been here longer than the others, that had seen more seasons and held more in its forest soil than its neighbors, that had that quality of places that have been left alone long enough to become fully themselves. The heron stands in the dream shallows as it stood in the real shallows, the same stillness, the same patience, the same complete absorption in the surface of the water below its fixed and golden eye. But in the dream, the heron is not at the edge of the third island. It is at the edge of everywhere, standing in the shallows of the dream sea that is all the seas of the day combined. The turquoise of the first island and the glassy bay and the amber of the afternoon all merged into a single warm and brilliant water. And the heron standing at its edge is the still point of all of it, the place where the motion of the water and the motion of the day stop and something else begins. Something patient and watchful and completely present. You watch the heron. The heron watches the water. And in the watching, there's something that the day was always moving toward and never quite arrived at, because the day is always moving, always in the process of becoming the next moment, always a little ahead of the moment of pure presence that the night can reach, because the night has nowhere to go and nothing to become, and therefore nothing to prevent it from being fully and completely what it is, which is this. Still and dark and warm and present in the way that only the sleeping mind is present, without agenda, without the forward-facing pressure of waking consciousness that is always already half in the next moment before this one is finished. The heron is still. You are still. The dream is still. And through this stillness, the water of the dream shallows moves with its own slow and independent motion, the warmth of it visible even in the dream as a quality of the light, the water lit from below as well as above, lit by the white sand floor and the reflected sky, lit by the fish moving through it, lit by its own clarity, which is a kind of luminosity, the tropical shallows generating their own light from the combined action of sun and sand and the transparency of water with nothing in it to cloud it. And this light fills the dream the way warmth fills a closed and sunny room, gently and from every direction, surrounding and within. The heron strikes. The same movement as before, the same explosive precision, the same impossible speed from that stillness, and then the fish is gone and the heron is still again, and the dream has absorbed the motion back into its stillness the way the bay absorbed the boat's wake, the disturbance closing after itself without a trace. And you breathe. Slowly, the dream breathes with you. In the out. Somewhere in the middle of the night, in the deepest part of the sleep, you go somewhere that has no image and no sound and no warmth and no cold, a place that is not a place but the absence of place, the state that the sleeping mind arrives at when it has done all its dreaming and put down all its images and gone to the bottom of itself, where there is nothing but the fact of being alive. The heartbeat, that is what remains at the bottom. The heartbeat and the breath, both slow, both steady, both doing their continuous and faithful work in the dark of the cabin, with the same reliability they have always had, with the same patience that the heron brought to its watching and the mango tree brought to its shade and the sea brings to its rhythm, everything in this night patient, everything content to continue at its own pace, nothing requiring urgency, nothing asking for anything other than the permission to simply be what it is and do what it does. You are there, in the deepest place, where there is only the heartbeat and the breath and the warmth of the body doing its nighttime work, repairing and restoring and renewing with the quiet efficiency of something that has been doing exactly this every night of every life it has ever carried through the world, the cellular work that needs no direction, the chemistry that asks no questions, the deep and faithful maintenance of a living system by itself in the warm dark. You are being maintained, repaired, renewed. The sea outside the hull continues its work. The stars above the porthole continue their turning. The anchor chain lies in the sand below and holds the boat in its position with patient, unasking firmness. The mango's sweetness is somewhere in the body's memory. The heron's stillness is somewhere in the body's knowing. The colors of the water through the mask in the first island's bay are somewhere in the body's keeping, stored in whatever the body uses to store the best things, the most beautiful and most physical things, the things that were felt through the skin and the eyes and the nose and the whole warm surface of a person moving through a warm and beautiful world. All of it is kept. All of it is here in the body, in the sleep, in the deepest place where the day is not a sequence of events but a wholeness, a single experience that the body holds as a single thing, the way a tree holds a season in its rings, compressed into the knowledge of the wood. You are that kind of wholeness. This night is making you that. The sun knows it. The stars know it. The warm wood of the cabin holds it. And your heart beats slow and steady and faithful as it has always been, keeps the time of it, measures the deep and generous restoration that the night is performing on you while you rest, marks the minutes of the healing with its patient drum. In the out, in the out, the deepest place, the most restful place. The place that you visit every night and that every night gives you back the version of yourself that the day has used, returned and whole, ready for whatever comes next. You are there, simply there. From the deepest place, the dream that comes is the simplest. Dream, the sea. Just the sea, not the sea with islands in it, or with the boat in it, or with any of the particular features that the day gave the sea. Just the sea itself, the open tropical sea, extending from where you are to every horizon in every direction. The water, that color that is the sea's own color in full sunlight. The blue that is the blue of depth and light working together. And the surface of it moving in the long, slow swell of open water. The surface lifting and descending in those broad, gradual hills that are not waves in the dramatic sense, but the sea breathing. The sea at its largest scale, simply continuing the motion that the wind put into it days or weeks ago somewhere far away, carrying that motion forward through the water at its own pace, delivering it here to this surface under this sky, where the only thing to receive it is the light and the occasional seabird, and in this dream you. You are in the water, not swimming, not floating. Simply in it in the way of dreams, present in the warm blue of the open tropical sea without needing to explain your presence there, without needing anything more than the fact of it, the fact of the water surrounding you and the sun above you and the depth below you, the extraordinary depth of the open sea, which is not the shallow turquoise of the island bays but something very different, something that goes down and down and down to a floor so far below that no light reaches it. Where the pressure is enormous and the water is cold, and the creatures that live there have never seen the sun and never will. But at the surface where you are, the sun is very warm, and the water is the temperature of the afternoon, and the sea is moving in its long, slow, breathing rhythm. And you are part of it, neither boat nor land, neither departing nor arriving, simply here in the open sea in the sleeping mind's version of the day's most fundamental experience, which was not the first island's reef, or the second island's mango shade, or the third island's ancient forest, though all of these were beautiful and all of these are kept. The most fundamental experience was this: the water, the warmth, the motion, the color, the salt on the lips, the sun on the face, the depth below and the sky above, and the body held between them by the warm and patient sea. This is what the dream gives back. The essential thing. Stripped of every detail except the ones that matter, which are warm blue moving held. Warm blue moving held. You breathe in the dream the way you breathe in the sea, the rhythm of it altered by the water, slower and deeper, the body taking more air because the body in the sea wants more air, wants to fill the lungs completely with each breath, wants to feel the full expansion of the chest against the water's resistance. The breath in the sea always more conscious and more complete than the breath on land. You breathe. The dream sea breathes with you. And you float in the deepest blue, under the warmest sun, in the most open and most generous water. Simply, completely, perfectly floating. The boat rocks, a slightly larger movement than the boat has been making, the swell outside the bay having found a way around the island's point and sent a gentle representative into the sheltered water, and the boat rises with it and descends, and the anchor chain pulls slightly taut and releases, and the sound of it comes through the hull into the cabin, into the sleep, arriving in the dream as the sea arriving at the boat, the same sea that the dream has been swimming in. And in this arrival, the dream and the waking world are briefly the same thing. The warm sea of the sleep and the warm sea outside the hull indistinguishable in the moment of the boat's larger rocking, both the same water, both the same warmth. You feel the rocking. Without waking, the body registers the slightly larger motion and incorporates it into the dream sea responding with its own slight movement, the surface of the dream water lifting in a longer swell and you lifting with it, the floating body rising on the dream swell as the sleeping body rises with the boat on the real swell. The two movements synchronized, the dream and the sea agreeing on the rhythm. Then the swell passes. The boat settles. The dream settles, and the sleep deepens again or returns to its depth, the brief disturbance resolved, the body and the dream both returning to the steady state of the deep night, the rocking returning to its gentler, more continuous rhythm, the anchor chain silent again on the sand below. Through the porthole, the stars. The same stars as before and not the same, the sky having turned, the stars shifted in their positions, the night having moved on through its hours while you rested, the world having continued in its patient rotation without requiring anything from you, the whole. Enterprise of the night proceeding as it always proceeds, reliably and beautifully and without incident. You breathe, the sea breathes, in the out. The flying fish comes to the dream. The one from the morning, the one that appeared ahead of the bow in the first minutes of the journey, breaking the surface in that silver arc that was over before you were quite sure you had seen it. In the dream, the flying fish is slower, the dream having access to the speed adjustment that it always applies to things that were too fast in waking life to be fully seen. And what the dream shows you is the fish in its full arc, lifted from the water at the bow's approach, its fins spread to catch the air, the silver of its body catching the morning light as it travels the arc of its brief, extraordinary flight above the surface. It is flying. This is what flying fish do, and the word is accurate, the spread fins functioning as wings of a kind. The fish genuinely airborne for the duration of its arc, in the air rather than the water, in the medium that belongs to birds rather than fish. And the dream watches this with the patient attention of something that finds it as remarkable as it is, which is very remarkable, which is the kind of thing the world contains that makes the world an inexhaustible place to be in. The flying fish reminding you that the categories by which you organize the natural world are categories of convenience rather than of nature's actual structure. And nature does not hold to them. Nature produces the flying fish and the dolphin and the manta ray leaping from the surface, and all the other things that cross the boundaries between the elements because nature has no interest in boundaries, except as the raw material from which it makes its most improbable and most beautiful exceptions. The flying fish reaches the top of its arc. For a moment it is simply in the air. The silver of it, the light on the spread fins, the arc of the body mid-flight, everything paused by the dream at the top of the trajectory, where the fish is neither rising nor falling, but simply there, briefly, impossibly there in the air above the turquoise water in the morning light. Then the arc descends. The fish re-enters the water with a small splash that the dream sounds in perfect detail, the exact sound of a fish entering water from above, and then the water closes over it and the surface is smooth again, and the morning light plays on it as it played before the fish and as it will play after, the sea indifferent to the fish's passage as it is indifferent to the boat's passage, receiving everything and returning to itself. You watch the place where the fish entered the water. The small ripples spread from it and travel outward and diminish and are gone. And the sea is smooth, and the morning light plays on it. And the dream is very quiet. The hours of the night have their own geography. In the first hours, the sleep is establishing itself, the territory of the night being claimed room by room, the waking world retreating, the dream world filling the space it leaves. In the middle hours, the deepest hours, the territory is fully the night's, every room of you occupied by the sleep, nothing held back, nothing still awake and attending, the full surrender that the body makes in the center of the night when it has given itself completely to its own restoration. And now the later hours. The hours that know something. Not consciously, not with any specific knowledge, but with the body's own knowledge, the knowledge that is not thought but sensation, not decided but felt. And what is felt now in the later hours of this tropical night is a very faint and very gradual change in the quality of the dark. A change so small it cannot be seen and can barely be felt, but is there, present in the air, present in the darkness itself. A very slightly different darkness from the darkness of the middle night. A darkness that has something at its edge, something at the eastern boundary of itself, something that is not yet light and not quite not light, but something between, something that the darkness is beginning to negotiate with, beginning to make its arrangements with, the night beginning its long and unhurried conversation with the coming day. You feel this in your sleep. Not as a thought, not as the knowledge that dawn is coming, just as a shift, a very slight shift in the temperature of the air that moves through the porthole. The night air at this hour always the coolest of the 24, always the most purely itself, the warmth of the day fully withdrawn and the warmth of the coming day not yet arrived. The temperature valley of each day's cycle arrived at and held for these few minutes before the sun's approach begins to warm the air again. Your body responds. As sleeping bodies always respond to the pre-dawn cool, with the small internal adjustment. The slight increase in the body's own warmth production, the system looking after itself as it has looked after itself all night, continuous and competent and entirely without your involvement. Your involvement not required, not wanted. The body perfectly capable of managing itself through the night, and has been doing so every night of your entire life, and will continue doing so with the same quiet reliability. The cabin is warm. The wood holds the day's warmth still, though less of it now than at midnight, the wood having been releasing it slowly all night, giving it back to the air degree by degree with the patient generosity of something that received it freely and returns it the same way. Through the porthole, the stars. Still there, still turning. Still the same stars that have been there all night, though their arrangement is different now. The sky having turned far enough that the Southern Cross has moved, risen slightly from the low position it had at nightfall, and the Milky Way has shifted its orientation, and the stars of the eastern sky that were not yet risen when you came below are now high overhead, the whole sky having turned its measured fraction of the nightly arc. The earth having carried you in the boat and the island and the sea through this fraction of the rotation that is the night, the world doing what it does every night, turning, carrying everything on its surface through the dark and back toward the light. The dream that comes in the later hours is warm. Simply warm. After the water dream and the flying fish and the heron and the deep wordless place at the center, this dream is warmth itself, the warmth of the day distilled. The warmth of the sun on the deck and the sun on the water and the sun on your face and the warmth of the islands in the afternoon and the warmth stored in the dock wood of the second island and the warmth of the mango shade and the warmth of the third island's ancient forest breathing out its stored heat in the land breeze at evening. All of this warmth gathered into the dream and offered back to you as a single, continuous, surrounding warmth that has no source because it is not coming from anywhere, but is simply the quality of the night at its deepest and most restorative. The warmth of a body that has been tended to all night by its own faithful systems. The warmth of a person who has been sleeping well and long in a warm and safe and gently rocking place. You receive the warmth. Without deciding to, without any act of reception, just receiving, the way you received everything today. The light on the water and the warmth of the bay and the shade of the mango tree and the sunset over the open sea, all of it simply offered and simply received. The transaction complete in the offering and the receiving without any need for acknowledgement or analysis or the placement of the thing in relation to anything else. The warmth is here. You are here. The boat rocks. The sea breathes. The sound, very faint at the very bottom of hearing, below the threshold of the sound you would consciously describe as a sound, more a vibration than a sound, more a quality of the air than a vibration. You hear it in the sleep without hearing it exactly, the body registering it through whatever combination of ear and skin and the particular sensitivity of the sleeping state to the world's subtler offerings. The sea, more specifically, the sea on the windward shore of the island. The waves that have been breaking there all night on the rocks and the narrow beach that faces into the trade wind. The waves that were audible from the anchored boat at sunset as a very distant sound, more atmospheric than localized, more a quality of the evening than a specific sound. Those waves are still breaking on the windward shore. They have been breaking all night. They will be breaking at dawn as they have been breaking for all the time this island has been here to receive them. And their sound travels across the island in the still night air and reaches the leeward bay and the anchored boat and the sleeping person within it is this. Pulse, a very slow and very low pulse in the air. The rhythm of the sea's work on the island's windward side, regular and continuous and deeply, fundamentally reassuring. The body hears it as safe, continuing, the sea doing what the sea does, the island standing firm, the world ordered and proceeding. You go deeper. Or you stay where you are and the sleep simply delivers more of itself to you, the depth finding you rather than you going to the depth, the rest completing itself in these later hours with the same patient thoroughness with which it began. The night's full gift still being given, the last hours of the dark no less restorative than the first, the body still receiving what it needs, still processing and renewing and restoring the long and faithful work of the Sleeping body approaching its completion in the cool and quiet hours before the dawn. The dream shift. You are on deck. The night deck of the boat, the same deck you lay on after dinner watching the stars. But in the dream the deck is larger or the boat is smaller, the deck more present as a space, more defined, and the sky above it more full of stars than any waking sky. The dream giving the stars their true magnitude, the number of them that actually exist in the sky above a dark tropical sea, which is many more than the eye in waking can quite process. The dream eye having no such limitation, and therefore showing you all of them. All of them. The full count of the stars visible from this latitude in this darkness. The sky above the dream deck, not the sky you saw from the waking deck with its remarkable and beautiful star count, but something more, something beyond remarkable, the sky at its actual fullest. The universe showing you what it actually looks like from the surface of the earth when the atmosphere is clear, and the eyes are open, and the light pollution is zero, and the mind is not filtering or organizing or naming or measuring, but simply receiving. You receive it, lying on the dream deck under the full and actual sky. The Milky Way above you is not the river of soft light it appeared to be from the waking deck, the suggestion of the galaxy's band visible in the dark. In the dream it is the galaxy itself, or close to it, the full breadth of it overhead, not a river but an ocean of light that has its own currents and its own depths, brighter in the center where the core is and dimmer at the edges, and within it individual stars visible not as points in a mass but as themselves, distinct, each one its own particular light at its own particular distance, the dream making the cosmic intimate in the way only sleep makes the cosmic intimate. By removing the distance, by allowing the eyes to see as they would need to see to actually take in the scale of what is above them. You look up at this sky for a time that has no measurement in the dream. The body that is asleep in the berth below does not know how long this looking takes, does not know whether it is minutes or hours, the dream's time being its own time, the only time that matters there, and the time it takes to look at the full sky over a tropical sea in the deepest dream is exactly as long as it takes, which is exactly right. Then, star falls. Meteor in waking terms, a piece of something burning in the atmosphere, but in the dream a star truly falling, drawn down from the enormous sky overhead in a long bright arc that is over in less than a second, and yet was there, clearly and unmistakably there, the arc of it from upper right to lower left across the dream sky. A scratch of light in the dark that the dark closes over immediately, perfectly as though it never happened, the sky returning to its full and patient starfield without any trace. You watched it, the whole arc of it. And now it is gone, and the sky is as it was, and you are still on the deck, and the stars above you are still there in their full and actual number, and the sea is still around the boat, and the boat is still rocking in its slow and steady rhythm, and the night is still the night, and you are still resting in it. The pre-dawn comes to the cabin through the porthole as a change in the quality of the darkness above the glass's circle. Not light, not yet. The stars in the porthole's circle are still there, still brilliant, the darkness around them still the full dark of the tropical night. But something at the edge of the porthole's view in the direction of the east has shifted, the dark there fractionally less absolute, the quality of it warmer, a warmth that is not visible as color but is present as a softening, as the very first erosion of the night's depth at the edge that is facing the sun's approach. The sun is still below the horizon. Still a long way below the horizon, the dawn not a thing that is happening but a thing that is preparing to happen, assembling itself on the other side of the world's curve with the patience and thoroughness that good things bring to their preparation, wanting to be ready when the moment comes, wanting to arrive fully rather than in pieces. But the body knows it is coming. Not consciously, not with the waking mind's knowledge of the sequence of the day, not with the clock's knowledge or the calendar's. The body knows it the way the flowers know it, the way the birds know it, the way everything that lives and breathes and has been shaped by the rhythm of the day and the night and the day knows it in the oldest and most reliable of all the body's knowing, the knowing that has no words and needs none, the knowing that is simply the body adjusting itself to what is coming, beginning its long and gradual return to the waking. State as gradual and as patient as the approach of the dawn itself. Your breathing changes, just slightly, A fraction deeper, a fraction more regular, the breath of the very deep sleep giving way to the slightly more active breath of the lighter sleep. The breathing that belongs to the hours close to waking, the breathing of a body that is beginning to remember that it has a body, beginning to feel the birth beneath it and the fabric above it and the warmth that belongs to both. You do not wake, you breathe. But the breathing has changed, and the change is the first sign, the first small turning of the tide, the night having done its work and beginning to release you, very gently, very gradually, the way the sea releases everything it holds, not by stopping the holding, but by loosening it, by letting the thing find its own way back to the surface. A bird. The first bird, the one that always comes first, the one whose internal clock is set a fraction of an hour earlier than every other bird in the trees on the island above the bay, whose song comes out of the pre-dawn dark as a single clear note that has no competition, no accompaniment, just the one note in all the dark air of the pre-dawn bay. It reaches you in the cabin through the porthole. Just barely, the porthole is small and the island is not close and the bird is high in one of the trees of the third island's dense forest, but the pre-dawn air carries sound well, the air at this hour being particularly still and clear, the thermal effects of the day not yet present to complicate the atmosphere. And in this still and clear air, the bird's note travels across the water and through the porthole into the cabin and into your sleep. You receive it. Without waking, with the body's particular talent for receiving sound in sleep without being disturbed by it, incorporating it into whatever the sleep is currently doing with the same effortless grace with which the sea incorporates everything the wind puts into it. The bird's note enters the sleep and the sleep receives it as morning approaching, the world announcing itself, the first voice of the new day beginning at the edge of the dark. In the dream, if there is a dream at this moment, the bird's note becomes the sound of everything moving toward the surface, the long, slow ascent from the deepest place through the layers of the sleep toward the place where the waking world and the sleeping world are close. Enough to each other that you can hear one from the other, can feel the warmth of the waking world reaching down through the lighter sleep, can smell the sea air coming through the porthole in its pre-dawn clarity, can feel the birth beneath you with a specificity that was not possible in the deeper hours. The bird sings again. 2 notes this time, then 3, the song assembling itself phrase by phrase in the pre-dawn dark as the bird's confidence grows with each repetition answered not by another bird but by the silence of the pre-dawn bay, the silence receiving the song and holding it briefly in the still air, and then releasing it, the sound fading into the water and the darkness and the approaching light. You breathe. The bird sings. The sea rocks the boat. The stars in the porthole are still there, still brilliant, though the eastern edge of the porthole's circle of sky is showing now the first, barely perceptible warmth, the suggestion of color, the sky beginning to think about what it will become. The dream of the final hours is the simplest dream. You are on the water, in a small wooden boat smaller than the one you are actually sleeping in, a boat that is just enough boat for one person on a calm tropical sea, and the sea around you is the morning sea, the early morning sea that you have not yet seen with waking eyes on this particular trip, but that the sleeping body knows from every other morning, every other early hour on every other water. The sea at its most purely itself before the day has complicated it with heat and wind and the particular fullness of the afternoon. The morning sea is very still. Stiller than the afternoon sea and stiller than the evening sea and stiller even than the night sea. The night sea having the swell of the open ocean to move it even in sheltered bays. But the morning sea in the particular half hour before the sun arrives is the stillest thing there is, the night's stillness still present and the day's wind not yet arrived. The sea surface in the pre-dawn calm holding its reflection of the pre-dawn sky with a perfection that only this hour allows. In the dream boat on this dream sea, the reflection is perfect. The sky above and the sky below, the pre-dawn gray of the east becoming rose, and the rose reflected in the water directly below it, so that you are on the boat in the middle of the rose, floating on it, surrounded by it. The color above and the color below and the small wooden boat holding you between them, exactly between the sky and its reflection, in the exact middle of the most beautiful hour. You sit in the bow of the small boat. Your hands are in your lap open. The sea is perfectly still. The color is deepening at the eastern horizon, the rose pulling toward a warmer tone, toward the amber that precedes the gold of the actual sunrise. The sky beginning to make its commitments for the morning, beginning to show you what it will look like when the sun arrives. A preview in gradations of color that builds from the horizon upward, filling the eastern sky with its warmth before the source of the warmth has even become visible. You look at it without hurry. The dream has no hurry. The sleep has no hurry. The approaching dawn has no hurry. Everything here is at the pace of first light over a calm tropical sea, which is the pace of something that has been happening every morning for as long as there have been mornings, that has been beautiful every time and knows it can afford to take its time. The first gold appears. Just at the horizon line where the sea meets the sky, a sliver of gold, warmer than the rose above it, deeper, the first true daylight color, the color that belongs to the sun before the sun is visible, the sun's announcement of itself before its arrival, the light running ahead of the source the way a warm wind runs ahead of the storm that made it. Your open hands receive the first gold. You feel it in the dream. The warmth of the first gold morning light on the open palms, warmth arriving from the horizon across the still water and the rose reflection, and landing on your hands that are open and ready, open because that is how hands are when they are not holding anything, not bracing against anything, and not reaching for anything, when they are simply resting in the lap of a person who is at rest in every way that a person can be at rest. In the body and in the mind and in the deep and faithful sleep of a full and beautiful night. The warmth lands. You receive it. The sun. It appears above the horizon of the sea in the dream as it will appear, a little while from now, above the horizon of the real sea outside the real porthole, the disk of it more orange than the midday sun, the atmosphere thicker here at the horizon bending and warming the light, and its appearance above the line of the sea is the most definitive moment of any morning, the moment that is not yet but will be, the moment the dream is preparing you for, showing you what is coming so that when it comes it will be not a surprise but a recognition, the waking world offering what the sleeping world already knew was on its way. The sun rises in the dream, and as it rises, the color of the sea changes. From the rose of the pre-dawn reflection to the gold of the first light, and then the gold brightening as the sun rises, the sea below the sun becoming the deep gold amber of the tropical morning, the water lit from above now as well as from within, the light working through the surface into the water and doing what light does in warm, shallow water, which is to make the world below visible, to reveal the sea floor. To illuminate the coral and the sand, and the fish moving through the early light with the purposeful ease of creatures that are already well into their morning, while the air above the water is still coming to terms with the arrival of the day. The fish in the dream sunrise are golden. All of them, the striped ones and the silver ones and the small brown ones that explored the sand floor of the bay. In the first light they are all golden, the morning light doing what morning light always does to everything it touches, which is to make it briefly, beautifully more itself than it was in the even illumination of the full day, the angled light revealing texture and depth and the particular warmth of each individual thing that the midday light will later smooth over with its comprehensive brightness. You watch the golden fish from the dream boat, through the golden water, in the golden morning, the boat rocking very slightly on the gold-lit sea, your open hands warm with the light, and everything, all of it, the fish and the water and the light and the boat and the dream and the sleep and the night that is becoming the day, everything in its full and particular beauty, everything warm and moving and luminous and present in the way that things are present on the water in the morning, which is completely, which is with the full weight of their actual existence, which is more than enough. The bird is singing again. Not one bird now, several. The forest on the third island assembling its morning chorus the way the stars assembled the night sky, gradually and by accumulation, each new voice adding to what the previous ones built, the whole growing. From the single note of the first bird to something that is beginning to deserve the word chorus, beginning to fill the pre-dawn air with the collective declaration of the island's birds that the morning is real, is here, is worthy of this sound. You hear them. In the sleep that is now very light, the waking world reaching down through it with more confidence than before, the sounds of the actual morning arriving at the actual you in the actual birth with more presence than any of the night's sounds, because the night is becoming morning and the morning is yours, and what is yours reaches you wherever you are. The sea outside the hull. You hear it with a clarity you have not had since you came below, the sleep too deep until now to make the sounds this specific, this particular. The water against the hull, the anchor chain, the very faint sound of the bay's surface in the morning air that is slightly different from the night air, the pre-dawn breeze that has begun to come off the sea, the diurnal cycle delivering its cool morning breath across the water. The porthole. Through it now unmistakably the first color. Not the stars in dark of the middle of the night, not the stars in warmer dark of the pre-dawn, but something more than that, the eastern sky visible through the porthole showing now a definite color. A warm gray at its lowest edge that is moving toward rose. The sky doing what the dream was showing you it would do. The pre-dawn colors building from the horizon, and above them the stars still present but paler now, less brilliant, the sky beginning to compete with them. The day beginning to make its first real claim on the darkness. You breathe. The morning air comes through the porthole. The morning air of the tropical sea, which is the cleanest air there is, salt and water and the particular freshness of the hour before the sun. The air that has traveled across hundreds of miles of open ocean before arriving at your porthole, picking up nothing along the way except more of itself, more salt, more the smell of deep water and the open sky, and it arrives at you clean and cool and full of the morning, full of what the morning always brings, which is the return of the world. The recommitment of the light to the task of illuminating things, the renewal of everything that the night completed. You breathe it in, long and deep. Your sleeping lungs receive it. Your sleeping body receives it. The morning fills you. In the out, the boat rocks. In the out, the birds on the island. In the out, the pre-dawn color in the porthole. In the out, the same, always the sea. Warm and present and rocking the boat in its slow and patient rhythm. The same rhythm it has rocked the boat with all night. The same rhythm it was rocking the boat with when you came below and lay down and looked at the porthole's circle of stars and breathed out and crossed into the sleep. The same rhythm, unchanged, faithful as the heartbeat, reliable as the turning of the sky. The sea doing what it does always without instruction, without any need for your attention or your gratitude or your witness. It does it anyway. For you, for this boat, for this morning, for the long and beautiful night that is now becoming the long and beautiful day. The sea does it for all of it, for everything that rides on it and sleeps on it and crosses it and is held by it, for the fish below its surface and the birds above it and the islands that rise from it, and the people on those islands who live by it and with it and despite it and because of it. The sea does it because this is what the sea does. And you have been carried by it through the night. And you have been held by it. And you have been rocked by it into the deepest rest. And now you are being returned by it gently and completely to the morning. The light in the porthole has become rose. Actual rose, the color visible now as a color and not as a suggestion, the eastern sky through the porthole's glass showing its pre-sunrise palette in full, the rose deepening at the horizon toward amber, the stars above it paling, the whole sky in the portholes circle a small masterpiece of transition, the night becoming the day in that small frame, compressed and complete. You say it. Your eyes still closed, take in the light that comes through the eyelids from the porthole. The light that is now enough light to register as warmth on the skin of the closed eye. The rose light of the pre-dawn touching your face where it turns toward the porthole. The first light to touch you since you came below last night. The first specific and directional warmth since the sunset touched your face on the deck. The warmth lands on your face, gently. The lightest possible warmth, not the warmth of the sun itself, but the warmth of its arrival. The warmth of the sky lit by the sun not yet risen, and this warmth, this gentlest of all. Warmth begins to do what morning warmth always does to the sleeping face, calls it very quietly toward itself. You are being called. Not urgently, not in any way that would disturb or rush or demand. Just called the way the morning always calls the sleeping, with warmth and light and the sound of birds and the quality of the air that belongs to no other hour. The morning making its case for itself with everything it has, which is all of this, which is more than enough. You breathe the morning air. You feel the birth, the fabric, the warmth of the wood. You feel the boat, the rocking, the sea beneath the hull doing its faithful work. You feel the morning through the porthole, the rose light, the bird song carrying across the water from the island, the pre-dawn air. You are almost here, almost back. The sleep is very light now, the lightest it has been since the first minutes of it, the body having done its full work through the night and now standing at the threshold of the day with the same patience with which it stood at the threshold of the night many hours ago, waiting for the moment, not rushing toward it, not holding back from it, simply here at the edge, breathing the morning air, feeling the boat, hearing the birds, receiving the rose light on the closed eyelids. Your hands feel the fabric beneath them. Your back feels the birth. Your face feels the air from the porthole. All of these sensations returning to you one by one, the body reassembling its map of itself in the waking world, checking that everything is where it was, that the hands are still hands and the face is still a face, and the body is still a body lying in a berth on a boat anchored in a bay off a tropical island at the first rose light of a new morning. Everything is where it was. Everything is exactly as it was. The boat is still rocking. The sea is still warm. The birds are still singing from the island. The porthole's rose is deepening toward gold. And you are rested. Deeply, completely, thoroughly rested in the way of someone who has spent a full night on the water, held by the sea's patient rhythm, warmed by the cabin's wood warmth, accompanied by the stars through the porthole and the anchor chain's quiet sound and the distant breaking of the waves on the windward shore, and all the small and faithful sounds of a boat at anchor in a sheltered tropical bay through the whole long, beautiful arc of a summer night. You are rested. You are renewed. You are returned to yourself, the version of yourself that exists on the other side of the night's full gift, the self that has been given back its energy and its ease and its particular quality of attention that a full night's sleep restores, the quality that makes the world look the way it looks when you're truly rested, which is vivid and specific and full of the kind of detail that tiredness blurs and rest clarifies, the world in focus, the world present. The world offering itself to your attention with the openness that the world always has and that rested eyes can receive. The porthole is gold now. The gold of the actual sunrise, the sun having cleared the horizon somewhere beyond the island, its light preceding it around the island's hills and over the bay and through the porthole into the cabin, arriving on your face as warm as the unmistakable warmth of the sun, distinct from every other warmth by its directness and its completeness and the particular quality of light that always accompanies it, light that comes through the closed eyelids as a warm orange, the orange of lit blood. The orange that signals the day. The birds are in full voice. The whole island singing now, every bird that has a morning voice adding it to the chorus that the first bird began in the dark, the collective sound of a tropical island's dawn carrying across the water, arriving at the boat not as noise but as abundance, as the world's morning generosity, as the gift the tropics give every morning to everyone who is present to receive it, which today is you in the berth, in the golden cabin, in the warm rocking boat. You breathe the gold morning in. All of it. The salt and the warmth and the birds and the sea and the sun just clearing the island's hills and the porthole full of blue sky now. The rose entirely gone, the gold entirely gone, just the clear deep blue of the tropical morning sky that you will see when you open your eyes above the island and above the bay and above the boat and above everything. The blue that is the day's first and simplest and most reliable gift. The blue that means the night is done and the day is here and everything is well and everything is warm and everything is exactly as it should be. You know this. In the final moment of the sleep, you know this. The way you know things in the last moment before waking, with the full and simple certainty of a person who has been through the night and come out the other side intact, whole, restored, the full gift of the sleep received and kept, the whole night's beauty carried forward into the morning in the body's own keeping, in the particular ease of the muscles and the particular clearness of the mind, and the particular readiness of a self that has been returned to itself completely. The boat rocks. The sun is warm on the porthole. The birds are singing over the water. The sea is holding everything, the boat and the island and the morning light on the surface of the bay, holding it all with the same faithfulness with which it held it all through the night. The same warm and patient holding that has not changed and will not change. The sea being what it always is, always the same in its deepest nature. Warm and vast and moving and willing to carry whatever is placed on it with more generosity than anything will ever require. You breathe in the out. One more breath in the gold morning filling your lungs. Out. And the day is here. Completely here. Warm and blue and salt smelling and bird singing and boat rocking and sea breathing and yours, entirely and generously yours. The morning given freely and completely as the night was given, as everything in this journey has been given without condition, without expectation, simply offered, simply here, simply the world being what it is, which is beautiful, which is warm, which is endlessly, reliably, extraordinarily itself. The boat rocks, the sea breathes, the morning light fills the porthole. And you are here, rested and whole and held by the warm sea and the rocking boat and the new day that is already, through the porthole's golden circle, showing you everything it has. Which is everything. Which is the sea and the sky and the islands and the morning light and the birds and the warmth and the color of the tropical water in the first hour of the day. That color, that particular, unrepeatable, completely itself color. The color that was the first thing you saw this morning when you stepped onto the dock and looked at the sea and knew, before you had words for knowing it, that this was going to be a beautiful day. That color, still there, waiting for you, on the other side of the porthole, on the other side of the night, on the other side of this last warm breath. The thing, the morning, the color of something you have been trying to remember for a very long time. And now you remember